You've probably watched debates before where you thought, damn, this person knows their craft, knows what they're talking about so well. How? And then you've looked back and you thought, I don't remember 90% of the stuff that I've learned in school. Why? Well, I'm going to be answering those questions as well as giving the procedure to actually learn things better, more effectively. Well, let's get the first things out of the way. To learn things better will be to recall them better, right? To be able to actually manifest that knowledge spontaneously regarding whatever you could be. So to bridge this fact into the first problem, why we don't retain most of the things in school, we need to realize that in school when we are being taught things, right? Normally, at least when I went. There's the board, right? The teacher's saying stuff there, writing things down, or maybe it's digital and they've got a PowerPoint. And you're just listening and looking at it and writing it down. You're doing three things very well as a theory. We are missing the steps that make the effective learning method, well, effective. To learn is to know, and when you know is when you recall. So to be able to recall, we actually subconsciously go back to the state in which we learned the thing, right? This is why physically learning, a lot of us would be like, I'm more of a physical learner, right? I gotta go through it, fail, and I'll learn from it. It's because we are performing the thing that we need to do, and when we perform it, we may fail, but we learn from it, and next time we perform it, we know what to change, what to do better. But what if we weren't performing? What if we were learning from a textbook? Well, we can't just learn things by sitting down and reading them and reading them and reading them without any action. So the first method is to read and annotate. Throughout this video, I'll be using this book as an example. Let's say I want to learn the concepts of this book off by heart. I'm going to read through it, and as I read through it, I'm going to be annotating it, highlighting things in different colors in a way in which would help me memorize it, because I understand myself and my way of learning better than anyone. Your way of learning is different from everyone. Your brain has its own language. The reason a lot of us wouldn't have retained things from school is because the things that we were reading in themselves weren't in our interest. We weren't making a conscious effort of reading and annotating the things that were important for us to learn. There was no aim, no ambition. The thing that we were learning was for the purpose of whatever we needed to get the higher grade. So if you weren't interested in science and you were learning about the structure of a cell, well, you were highlighting what the membrane is, what the nucleus, all of that, but you didn't actually care all that much. So if somebody now asks you, how would you distinguish a cell membrane between flora and fauna, you wouldn't really be able to tell. I think it was something to do with like the cell wall, it was different. Anyway, I'm probably wrong, right? Because I don't remember it that well. So in your learning, as you're flicking through the pages, you have something in mind that you want to learn. And it's important to highlight according to that thing. Step 2 is to listen and annotate. Well, how can you do this for most things, right? For example, in this book, I have the audiobook. But what if I didn't? Well, I could always record myself speaking it and then playing it back, right? I go on a walk, I go to the gym, I put on my headphones and I start listening to myself read out the words that I want to learn. And as I'm listening to them, I write a few things down, maybe a quote or maybe an idea that pops up, and I branch it off. I make more notes, right? I solidify this knowledge. The more things you build around an idea, the more real it becomes. If you have an idea but it's not sustained by anything to hold it up, eventually it will crumble and disappear into the quicksand. But if you have 10,000 things holding it up, then of course it is a much more powerful ideal which will be supported by all of these things. Attending the UK throughout my school years, we didn't pay any attention to the teacher. They would speak, we didn't make notes, we didn't annotate. We were in English class and they would start telling us about whatever, right? Jekyll and Hyde and all of that stuff. And we would not pay attention. We would not write anything down. And if we looked at the board, we looked at the board so that we wouldn't be told off, but we wouldn't write anything down. So again, another reason why we don't remember most things from school. I'm taking school as a good angle because most of us are like 20 or have finished school and all that stuff. We don't remember anything, or like 10%, 20%, which is a real shame, of course. So we want to make this better. That's what this video is about. Method 3, you've probably heard this one. Explain it to someone else. Teach it to somebody else. Let's say you are studying with a friend or a group of friends. There are 4 sections to a thing you must learn. Okay, you learn 2, he learns or she learns 2, and then you say, all right, in half hour we're going to teach each other what we've learned. I remember the school did this effectively. I remember we had these like reading days, and they said, all right, we're going to read 20 pages, and when you read 20 pages, you gotta tell your classmates what the book is about. And that was really interesting because you pay more attention to make sure that you could explain to the teammate what it was about. It is in teaching that we also learn better. So when you, for example, me, right? I have these ideas about masculinity and femininity. When I speak about it with my friends, they become stronger in me. Or for example, as I was learning BJJ, I understood some concepts and they were like, alright, yeah, I could perform them and whatever, but not too well. And then I started teaching some of the newer people, and then as I was doing that, fundamentals became so much better in my performance. I would, very specific angles, very specific hand movements, and I would perform them a lot better than before I had tried to teach them. As for the fourth, I haven't heard this very often, but you actually reverse it. Have somebody explain to you something that you already know. That person will use their own words, their own vocabulary, but because it'll be slightly different from yours, but the same idea and the same concept. Seeing it from their perspective, an idea that you already know, will be super good for you. That will be another thing to hold up your knowledge. Be like, oh, this is how this person sees it, and it's correct. It's just they used a different word from me, but interesting perspective. Now, these 4 ways are super effective for your learning. Now, what kind of actions apart from that can you perform for effective learning? We know that kind of standing still is not very good. It puts you in a state of almost sleep, and then you don't really pay too much attention when you're in class or whatever. You're looking at the ball, but you're not really moving. Let's get your body to move. Active listening. You're listening to somebody and you're nodding and all that stuff, but you're not focusing on nodding for, active listening and liking, but rather you are moving your body to make sure that you are alive, right? That you are performing something. Next time that you're in a conversation, you try to summon that knowledge from within you, you can actually summon it. You're moving around, you're talking, saying, last time that I was talking about this, I was also moving. Participate, right? You're participating with your body. Now start asking questions as well. If possible, maybe you're listening to an audible, right? Pause it, think about what you just heard, and then relate it back to your life. Whatever knowledge you have, you obtain, try to relate it back to your life. Of course, if it's mathematics and it's like Johnny whatever, 20 soaps, or if it's like science, about the cell membranes and all that stuff, it's different. But if it's like philosophy and politics and things of the sort, relate it back to your life one way or another. Leadership, psychology, sociology, all of that stuff, you can do it. And as a final point, it is super important that as you relate it back to you, you learn this knowledge as a concept rather than as a word by word specific, because what this will allow for you is that you master it. You understand it to the point that you can be creative with it. For example, again, BJJ. If I am to do an armbar, right? I don't learn a armbar move from side guard or whatever, right? Instead, I learn the concept of it perfectly. Putting my thighs together, above the elbow, blah, 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 right? Thumb looking upwards, pulling it down, both arms, neck, close to the head, all of that stuff. I learn it, and as I know the concept, I can do it from almost any position as long as it's somewhat right. Learning to learn better is a great investment. It will save you time. If you need to play this video back and make some notes or whatever, please do. And I've made a server recently. I would love to see you there. I want to make it a space where we encourage each other to become better, and it would mean the world to me if you joined and partook. Strive to be 1% better every day, and much love.